Hello, and welcome. Welcome, all you listeners, to episode 38 of the Great Canadian Hockey Podcast. I'm James Parisi, and I'm here with my co-host, Aiden Sarah. How are we doing, fella? It's been a while.
It's been a while, which is both frustrating and not our fault. We'll explain. I am gassed, is the best way to put it. We're recording this evening of Sunday, December the 3rd. I'm in the middle of working 2 consecutive weeks without a day off. Today was our teddy bear toss game, James. We did not talk about that before the podcast. We had more teddy bears thrown on the ice this year than last year by my estimate of looking at it as it was being thrown from the broadcast booth. It was a cool day. This weekend, I had one of our players, Eddie Moskowitz, helping me on color because he is out with a lower body injury, and my regular color guy, Mike, was unavailable. He did an excellent job. Shout out, Eddie. We definitely are going to have him on the podcast next year when he's ripping up the NCAA for sure. He's such a nice guy. Did really, really well. Crazy good. It was a good game to call. Exciting. Blackfield's got 4 out of a possible 4 points this weekend. Great, but I'm out of gas, and I'm looking at this clock and I'm counting down the fact that wow, I don't actually have that much time before I have to be back at work on Monday morning.
So I got to ask you, because we haven't really talked about this a ton. I believe we've touched on it before, just in our random yammerings we do. Just a precursor. Aiden and I talked on this call for an hour before we hit record. And that's pretty standard nowadays for our episodes, is either before or after we will just sit there and talk about whatever goes on in life, because we're a lot of kilometers away from each other, and we don't get to see each other a ton. But I gotta ask, when you are completely out of gas, like you've been running on fumes and you get home, what is your leak into comfort state? How do you get in there? Because for me, it's I will cook whatever is, and I say cook with an asterisk because this is grabbing whatever frozen food I can find, whether it's little mini pizzas or chicken wings or some like frozen bacon and peppers hash browns from Costco, or some like dumplings or something, maybe even toast. It might even be a grilled cheese sandwich. Like, it's gonna be something really easy. And I will cook it, and I will stand there and eat it while I cook more of it, until at which point I decide I am tired and I don't want to cook things anymore. And again, cook with an asterisk. And then I will make my way to the couch, where at that point my cat Mina will decide that, good, my dad has reached the comfort position. I will go sit next to him and purr. And then at that point, I'll probably fire up some video games. I'll turn on NHL, and then I'll realize I don't have the patience or the energy to play someone right now. And then at that point, I will put on a show or a movie, and then binge watch for probably 6 hours until maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours before the sun comes up. And for the one reason is that it takes more energy to get up off the couch and go brush my teeth and get ready for bed than it does to sit there and press play again and be half asleep.
I'm struggling to have anything that remotely compares to the elaborate story you just told. Definitely nothing comparable, and a lot more fluctuation. Now, unfortunately, and I'm not trying to like say, oh, it's me here. Being gassed at the end of a day usually means I went to work for 8 o'clock and I left work at the other 8 o'clock. So it's like
The
I'm
other
gonna get
8 o'clock.
home. Yeah, I'm gonna get home and then I'm going to begin the process of just going to bed because it's late. Um, it also depends what the day for Caitlin would be here. Nothing that we were kind of talking about this too. Our townhouse here is 2 bedroom. We obviously share a bedroom, so the spare bedroom has turned into my office space where I record this podcast. It's very nice, and I've made it very homey. So like it is kind of my safe space. I have a monitor in here. If I really need to, it'll be something usually on Disney Plus, because I find like my comfort shows happen to be on Disney Plus more than Netflix. I'll throw on Disney Plus and I will lie down on the couch I have in my office and get under a blanket and just lay there and watch it. That's as close to your setup as I can get.
Hey, I'm glad you brought up Disney Plus, because So they're gonna start doing the password sharing thing that Netflix did, where they toast everyone who shares an account, and they restrict it to one household. At which point, I will no longer be on my dad's Disney Plus. And I've realized that aside from when there's like a new Star Wars show on there, or if I want to watch How I Met Your Mother, which I've watched start to finish probably 5,000 times, that's an exaggeration. It's more likely around in the mid 70s, start to finish. Um, but
Still a lot. Go
yeah,
on.
that's a lot. Um, I think I'm sticking with Crave. I might even ditch Netflix because
You know
Crave
what?
has all of the best shows. And if I want to binge watch a sitcom, Friends is there. Like,
Okay. Very weirdly, I don't know why Netflix's password sharing thing, like, and I pay for the Netflix that Caitlin, myself, my younger sister, and both my parents, like in BC, use. I've just paid for it. I don't ask me how that happened. Don't ask me how I've continued to pay for that for my parents. I just have. Um, it didn't. It we've managed to keep going, and it's shown us that like warning thing or like where's your location a few times, but like I don't understand how we continue to get away with it. It keeps working. But I was actually gonna cancel the Netflix because my thinking was, if it's just for me, I don't need this again.
yeah.
I don't know why I'm still paying for their Netflix, but I am. Here we are.
Well, Aiden, the thing is too, like I bought a really, really nice TV when I got my new Xbox because I wanted to be gaming in top quality and I wanted to watch movies in top quality. So Netflix charges me $24.99 a month because I to give me the option to watch in top quality. You're
Oh
only
my
allowed to watch in
god.
simulated 4K. Like you can't even watch in actual 4K.
Oh man.
Yeah, like it takes down your quality if you don't pay full price.
Yeah,
And
no.
so that
Wow.
alone makes me want to get rid of them. Crave doesn't do that. I was just watching tons of great shows and movies in top quality. And yes, Crave is $17 a month, but it's HBO. Like it's all of the best shows. And then they have a good enough movie selection that I can go rewatch Bond. Okay, cool. And they do get the odd good new movie here and there. So I am on Team Crave. Netflix can eat it, and so can Disney.
Yeah, the Disney for me, like I'm at my third final swing kick of the can at finishing Modern Family with Caitlin. So that's what we're going through on Disney Plus right now. Much like you, I've watched How I Met Your Mother, definitely not in the 70s. I'm not quite to that level, but that is kind of like a comfort show. If I just need some background noise, it's that or The Office. Um, yeah. So I don't know. I'm on Caitlin's parents' Disney Plus, so we'll see if how affected we are by that.
Oh, actually, I should bring this up now that we mentioned How I Met Your Mother and how many times I've watched it. I was at the bar last night and my group of friends was talking to another group of people, and I was talking to this one girl for quite a while, and she made a How I Met Your Mother reference, and she's like, "Oh, have you watched that show?" And I was like, "Yeah, like at least 70 times start to finish, like minimum." And she says, "I'm on my 64th watch through."
So she knows, hey.
Yeah,
I
she
respect
gets
that.
it. She gets it.
I totally respect that. Well, and it's again, it's just a weird comfort thing that I have. I need to fall asleep listening to something. It's like it's something that came from my mental health being poor. It just was a mind preoccupation thing, and now it's a comfort thing. I'm just used to it. Um, so often it is just How I Met Your Mother. So I cannot tell you how many times I've listened to the show because I'll fall asleep listening to something like that. It has to be a show I've already watched because then I don't focus on it too much because I kind of know what's happening, right? Brooklyn Nine-Nine's on that list too of a show that I'll do that with. Often I'll just kind of like snicker because it's playing on my AirPod, and Kim will be like, "What's wrong?" It's like nothing. It's just this.
Yeah, I did something else with that one time where I changed it over to a go to bed movie, and my go to bed movie was Dazed and Confused for about 18 months. And it wasn't even on Netflix or anything like that. I had the DVD. So I actually had to like press play on a remote. And so I would restart it if I wasn't asleep by the time it got to the scene where one of the nerdier guys gets in a fight at the party with the like kind of jerky dude who kind of looks like a greaser from The Outsiders. And once it gets to that scene, if I haven't fallen asleep, I would hit restart. Because the start of the movie is the end of the movie are the relaxing, comforting parts. So it's just like that was my go-to for so long that I know every scene of that movie like the back of my hand. But all of this aside, I know some of you enjoy our random yammerings and our tangents more than the hockey, but this is a hockey podcast, so we will now get to some hockey.
Yeah,
And
so I mentioned that the long delay wasn't our fault. We have an interview, and if you again, it provided you are on a device listening to this, don't know how else you'd be listening to it. You probably see our interview subject's name in the title of the episode. It's Layne Loomer. He is a hockey player, if you can believe it, on this hockey podcast. We recorded this interview a while ago. There's a reason we haven't been able to put it out till now. I'll talk about that right before we cut to the interview because there's a couple NHL things I want to go through first. We'll do these kind of two big headlines. We'll talk about Loomy. We'll throw to the interview, and then we'll finish off talking about more hockey. So Patrick Kane signs in Detroit. Let's get on track and let's
finally,
start
finally
there.
signs. Oh, I was just waiting. And I before we really dive into and analyze it, what was your reaction when you saw this?
It made sense, honestly. Like, you know, him and Alex DeBrincat have a very, very strong relationship. There's a spot for him in the top six. There's a spot for him on the power play. It's in a good organization with a excellent general manager, right? Like it's a team that's on the upswing. It's somewhere he's pretty close to home. He's from Buffalo. He's got a huge group of family. Like it makes sense. Obviously, the visual of Patrick Kane wearing the Red Wings jersey with the 88 on his back, that's going to be a little weird. We saw enough Chicago, Detroit, whether it was playoffs or regular season, just, great moments between those two teams with him on the Chicago side, that seeing him in the Red Wings jersey is going to be a little bit jarring, as it kind of is for any long-time one team player to switch teams. But it does make a lot of sense. And the more you think about it, I think the more sense it makes.
So my first reaction, because it was one of those nights for me where as I explained at the top of this podcast, I got home, made food, and then moved to the couch, and then I played video games, and then I watched a show. The news broke at 5 a.m. Pacific, and I was still awake. And I was like, oh, that's wild. I was awake long enough to see the next day's hockey news. That's interesting. And I see it, and I'm like, my first reaction was, really? Not that it's a problem, not that it's too weird to believe. I just thought he was going to go to a stronger team. But as we have learned since he signed, he has said that the fit with the team was just as important as it being a Stanley Cup contender. And there is a fit with him on the first power play in the top six with people, with a city, not a city, a state that he knows well. And it just works. Now, the one thing for me, I hadn't really seen the Detroit Red Wings practice gear before. And Kane got onto the ice with his practice gear. And I don't know why, but the Detroit Red Wings practice uniforms kind of look to me like pajamas. It looks like the hockey version of pajamas. And I had never seen the gear before, so I never thought of it. And now I can't unsee it. It looks like they're wearing pajamas. And I very strongly encourage anyone to go look at the video of Kane getting on the ice and the other Red Wings players skating around. That all red with the little bit of white accents, it looks like it's Christmas and it's one of those families that wears all matching PJs, but it's on ice.
A lot of hockey practice jerseys, I think you can say, are pajama-like in that they're muted and not special, and usually predominantly one color. Yeah, I never would have organically had that thought, but now that you've placed it, yes. It's I think I think you nailed it. He talked about how important the fit was, and it's a good fit. talked about DeBrincat already. DeBrincat, Larkin, and Kane as a line is quite something, right? Like, and it frees up Lucas Raymond to lead a line to himself, to lead that second line. And I think the Red Wings are trending in the right direction. I don't think they're there yet. I don't think Patrick Kane's acquisition are going to push them into a tier that they wouldn't have managed to be in without him. They've got some very capable players playing some very good hockey. I don't know. What do you see as a ceiling for this Red Wings team here with Patrick Kane on it?
Well, the last game they played, their first line as it skated on ice was Joe Veleno, Dylan Larkin, and Lucas Raymond. They played DeBrincat with JT Compher and Michael Rasmussen. And the way I kind of see it, if you can have Raymond gelling with Larkin, and then you can have a DeBrincat, Compher, Kane second line, I really like that. I like that a lot. That's a lot of fun. I mean, I don't know how much damage we can see Joe Veleno do on that first line, but he was a guy with a lot of potential at one point in his career, and he's not that old.
He's a very capable hockey player.
Yeah, he has all the tools. It's just about getting that toolbox going. So I'm excited to see how it works.
I was a huge Michael Rasmussen fan when he was with the Tri-City Americans. I watched him play a couple games in a playoff series with against the Kelowna Rockets when he was with Tri-City. And I thought the Red Wings hit a home run with him. It just hasn't worked out. But if you want to talk about guys with high ceilings, lots of potential, with all the tools, you can throw Rasmussen into that conversation as well, right? And I think that could even be the fit, Raymond, Rasmussen, and Larkin. If you think about the player Michael Rasmussen is, he complements Dylan Larkin pretty well, right? He's able to go to the dirty areas. He's able to supplement the rush going to the front of the net, right? He's that guy when Dylan Larkin's carrying the puck over the line that's going to make that net drive, that's going to open up the space for either Alex DeBrincat or Mo Seider jumping up to have the space as the trailer, right? Like it makes sense. It does.
Well, and the way you look at this team as well, their third line, David Perron, Andrew Kopp, Robbie Fabry, lots of scoring, lots of grit on that line. And then you go to their defense, and every Blackhawks team that Patrick Kane was a part of had very capable puck-moving defensemen. Moritz Seider is on this team. Jeff Petry's on this team. Shane Gostisbehere is on this team. And then their back-end sniper, number 96, Jake Wolvechkin.
Did you see his celebration the other day?
Yeah, I'm not a fan, but I don't hate it. I just don't get excited about watching NHL players do the gritty.
Yeah, it's
my friend group constantly clowns on Mitch Marner for doing it. Like it is made him a meme in my friend group.
Yeah, it's something.
There are
I don't know what to say about it.
There are a lot of Mitch Marner is the type of guy to blank jokes in my friend group.
Okay, let's pivot to Vancouver so we can talk about Layne, who was gracious enough to join us here. Canucks, two big things in the back end happen since our last podcast. Carson Soucy gets hurt. I think that Carson Soucy injury for me, James, it really, really completely exposed the pretty significant defensive depth issue, right? When you had Noah Juleson and Mark Friedman and X and Y all in the lineup at the same time, or so many minutes being taken up by some less than capable players, really. It exposed how important Soucy was and how weak that defensive depth is. Well, two big things have happened for the Canucks since then. Ethan Bear has made progress. The rumors of Vancouver signing Ethan Bear continue to persist, and they traded for Nikita Zadorov, and I really like the Zadorov trade. He's a cost-controlled defenseman on an expiring deal, so you're not tied into anything long-term. I think he's an extremely capable number 5 defenseman. If you're saddling him with top 4 minutes, that's when I think he can struggle a little bit. But when Carson Soucy comes back, you got Hughes and Soucy both ahead of him on that left side. Really, to me, James, Hughes, Hronek, Soucy, Bear, Zadorov, I guess Myers.
Ian Cole can play the right side if needed as well.
I would rather it be Cole than Myers, the way Myers is playing right now. But Ian Cole has played pretty good hockey this year. I think that is a top 6. Zadorov, Cole, Soucy, Bear, Hughes, Hronek. All of a sudden, the Vancouver Canucks on defense have gone from, Carson Soucy being out and basically having one capable pairing to, with everybody healthy, that's a defense that I wouldn't hate going into the playoffs with, right? That's a defense that can help supplement that forward core and that goaltender win a round or two.
One thing you didn't talk about with this trade, is how Calgary fans reacted. The buzz online was they were pissed they didn't get more. And the way I would just like to outline it and explain it is it was public that this player wanted a trade. Everyone knows he's on an expiring deal. Calgary doesn't want to retain salary. What do you think you're going to get? You got 2 draft picks. One of them was a third rounder. Shut up and take the present.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Like,
You
I
should have
think
got nothing.
I think if Zadorov and Tanev went together, which was some of the swirling rumors, I think you could have had a pretty nice haul come in, right? Like that was kind of the rumors with the Toronto Maple Leafs was that it was going to be Zadorov and Tanev together. I saw Frankie Corrado on TSN talking about that last week. Um, but the implication there is that the Calgary Flames and the Toronto Maple Leafs making that trade, there would have had to been some real bending over backwards to make that cap situation work in Toronto, right? The Flames didn't have to do anything. Vancouver traded Anthony Beauvillier to Chicago for a 5th-round pick, and that was the Zadorov money right there, right? Like Calgary didn't have to do anything, and they got 2 draft picks. I think they got the extra pick because they were trading him within the division, right? So realistically, I think you got more from Vancouver than you would have in a straight up trade with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like I think yeah, I don't think this is a loss at all. For a long time, I was very upset with the Vancouver Canucks for how they would not trade expiring free agents and let them walk. Well, if this was the deal on the table, why not? There are so many capable players in the 3rd round, maybe less in the 5th, but if your drafting and development is good and your scouting is good, there's nothing wrong with having an extra 5th-round pick.
Well, did you see why people think they didn't want to retain salary? You can only retain a maximum of 3 salaries per season. You can only have 3 retained salaries on the books, and they still have to trade Tanev, Hanifin, and Lindholm. I don't
Provided they
think they
don't
wanted to
sign them.
blow
Yeah.
that early.
Yeah, that makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
Have more flexibility, right? Like if you can retain on Lindholm or Hanifin, you're gonna get a big package.
Well, and there's no reason not to retain on Lindholm and Hanifin because they're on expiring deals, right? Like you can make Elias Lindholm available for what, $4 million? Like that's
I think
huge.
less.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. I
I
think
think he only
three.
makes 6.
Yeah. So it would be $3 million without another team that you can make Lindholm available for. Think about the Boston Bruins and their depth down the middle and how much Lindholm could help that team in the playoffs, right? And Boston, the assets aren't really there in terms of supplementing a team that's trying to get younger. But take a boatload of picks then. Why the heck not?
Just to bookend this one, next Calgary Flame to get traded, then where?
I think Chris Tanev is going to Toronto. I do. I think they're going to make it work. I don't think Toronto's going to have to give up like a Fraser Minton. Obviously, Matthew Nyes is not going anywhere. I think it'll probably be a 1st-round pick, one of their more B tier prospects like a Topi Niemela, and maybe just a roster player, a bottom 6 forward or a bottom pair defenseman that just to give the Flames an extra bit of depth.
What kind of pick do you think, like a 2nd rounder?
No, a first, because Toronto really
First.
right now, like if you think about where their 1st-rounder is supposed to be, I still think the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to get out of the Atlantic Division this year. I do. Like as good as Boston look, I've been saying this since the start of the year. This is Toronto's year to get past the 2nd round, and it pains me to say it, obviously, but that's what I believe. So if Toronto get past the 2nd round, James, a 1st-round pick is between 29 and 32, right? At that point, yeah, trade the 1st-rounder, especially in this draft. This draft is not last year's draft. After the 10 to 15 range, there's a pretty significant drop off. You are not getting the same players this year, 29 to 32, that you did last year. You're just not. So I think as a Canucks fan that Vancouver's 1st-round pick should be in play for the same reason. Like you're not going to get a top 15 pick. There's going to be some gems that fall into the early teens, but it thins out. It really does this year in the draft.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Well, we have quite a bit more hockey to get to, but I think it's time we get to this interview.
Yeah, so context. Layne Loomer, Blackfalds Bulldogs forward, recently committed to Penn State University in the Big Ten. That's why we had him on. Big Ten commitment, big deal for the guy. Now, I asked him a question during the interview. Again, I'm sure this is going to come up during the interview. I'm pretty sure we talked about it. For those of you that don't know, much like the World Juniors, Junior A has their own version. It's called the World Junior A Challenge. Junior A level players from different countries go to one place and they compete in this tournament. Canada sends 2 teams. They send a Canada West and a Canada East. I asked Layne if he had heard much about the team, and he talked about what he had heard. Now, what he had heard was supposed to be announced by Hockey Canada shortly thereafter. And then it wasn't for multiple weeks, which is why we've been sitting on this podcast and sitting on this interview, and why there hasn't been a podcast in the last month. So I will maintain this is not James and I's fault. It is definitely not Layne's fault. Hockey Canada is genuinely notorious, James, I don't know if you knew that, for their announcements being stagnated and not on time. But Layne talks about Hockey Canada and the announcement of the World Junior A Challenge roster. He talks about Penn State University, talks about the Blackfalds Bulldogs, and talks about growing up in the hockey community of Lethbridge, Alberta. It's a great interview, and we're going to turn it over there now. Okay, so next guest for us, if you have the Spotify thing open and you can see the podcast title, it's his name, so this isn't much of a spoiler, but Layne Loomer is going to join James and I today. I wanted to save Layne for the spring because personally, I think if an NHL scout goes to the right few games, we could see him drafted, and I think interviewing him after he was drafted would have been cool. But then this kid goes and he gets a Big Ten commit, and I'm kind of like, there's no way we can't interview this guy after a Big Ten commit. So it's Penn State University commit Layne Loomer. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, Aiden. How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me on.
Hey, anytime, man. I'm actually pretty excited, and as I was talking about before we hit the record button, I didn't prep well enough for this at all, and then I was like, okay, one of the guys who plays for the Bulldogs, he's on Aiden's team, probably just one of the boys, right? And I look at your elite prospects, and I'm like, dude, this is a pretty good get. Your your stats are pretty nasty, man.
Thank you.
So Layne, where I want to take this first is something you and I, and again, obviously us, we've been involved in the team together now for a year and a half, so we've talked about this a little bit, but this season 2023-24, this is now the second year in a row where to start the season, your training camp, your preseason got hit like a truck. Last year it was an illness, this year it was an upper body injury. So for you to kind of accomplish already what you've accomplished this year without the end of the summer going your way, like, I wanted to ask first about last year, because you're transitioning from the Northern Alberta Extreme Prep program. Your rookie year in Junior A, you start with Blackfalds. You're sick. You don't get into training camp right away. But once you get into the groove, you end up being a Rookie of the Year candidate and one of the finalists for the league. You were the Rookie of the Year for the team. So just tell me how that resilience paid off for you last year, going through the illness and then accomplishing what you managed to.
Yeah, definitely. Last year was a tough bounce to start the first season in the first junior year. So it was just kind of getting healthy, and then once the timing was actually pretty good, so I got the last 2 maybe exhibition games in, and then was able to start the season on time. But it was just a big blow to the end of the season going in with momentum. But definitely took a few weeks, but over some time, the coaching staff, it was just a good process to get me back to 100% and good to go.
So then this year, same thing. Upper body injury kind of keeps you out. You're in at the start of the regular season, right at the end of September. The team already, this Blackfalds team's gone through a lot of changes, but you seem to have found a home on a line with Brendan Ross. You two are lighting up the league. Eddie Moskowitz is out hurt right now, but the three of you are really on a tear together. So talk about your team. Talk to me about Brendan Ross. Talk to me about Eddie Moskowitz, and talk to me about how they help you and how this team helps prop you up on the ice.
I think just the team, we have a really good team this year, and especially playing with those two, both really good players. Like Brendan played with quite a bit last year. So just being able to develop, he's taken a lot of strides this year. He's a great player in this league, and you'd love to be out there on the ice with him. And then bringing in Eddie this year, who we started the year together with Brendan, and now he's injured, but he's definitely been missed the last few games in the lineup, and he's just a great addition to the team that's really helped us out this year, who just can make a lot of good plays. So it's fun to be out there with those two.
So, Layne, on the personal side here, I'm looking at your numbers, and like first season of junior A, you come in and pot 47 points in 55 games, point per game in the playoffs, like really, really solid dive into junior hockey. And it seems like numbers wise, you've just come in like a bat out of hell this year. What changed in the offseason? Was it just another year bigger, another year stronger, development wise? Did you change anything up training wise? What's the deal there?
Didn't really change too much up in that sense. Just coming in, grew a bit, got a lot stronger, and just a lot more opportunity coming in at the start of the year. So I think that's been very beneficial to put up numbers this year.
And I think looking back at last year as well, what was that dive into junior hockey like for you? I mean, it could be a pretty daunting task for a lot of guys. You see a lot of people go, "Whoa, this is the strongest competition I've played against so far. How am I going to break into this?" What was it like for you dipping your toes in and coming in flying like that?
It was the first game was a little bit harder just coming back from the illness. The season opener, we ended up losing in Olds. So that game was a little tougher, but after that it was every game just got better, more confident. Everything just felt better, pace. And it just kind of after the first game, it was just from there, everything just started to get way better.
Now, with Aiden, with you calling his games, what was your first impression? And then even after that, what was your first awesome call for the dude?
Oh man, I would need to prepare for the second part of that question. First impression on him was because it's junior hockey, you got kids all over the place. Last year, Layne would have been 17. There would have been 3 years worth of kids older than him. So anytime you have that, I'm looking at a player and I'm thinking, what could this kid be? And watching Layne, you watch for translatability, right? You watch for how many of these skills could be intact and would be effective at the next level. And still to this day, I don't know if I could even identify a hole in his game. That was my impression, was just the completeness of it and the really just the all around nature of every time he touched the puck, the right decision was being made.
Okay, you're buttering up pretty hard. And if I look on his elite prospects in a year and I see any of those words on there, I'm gonna suspect there's some inside baseball going on here. So I'm keeping an eye on that.
I can submit some scouting reports. Maybe he'll pop up. He'll pop up on the draft guide just because I email them relentlessly about it. This isn't something that me and Loomer would have done a ton of interviews for the Bulldogs by now. We're gonna do a ton more, I'm sure. Now, this isn't something that we would have brought up in an interview with Blackfolds, right? In the kind of official capacity. But I wanted to ask you, AP and Okotoks, in your last year with Northern Alberta Extreme, 5 games. What made Blackfolds the right choice to sign with in your rookie year?
For my rookie year, it was a lot of just what Doug and the whole coaching staff is building in Black Falls. It's something special, and even the success we've had this quick, and in a few years down the line, it'll be a powerhouse, I personally believe. Just the way they handle things. We have huge facilities, all that. If you want to get better every day, that's what they have, everything there for you. So it was just very development decision where I could just come in, put in the work, and then get the results in the end. Getting stronger every day. There's no excuses really playing for the Bulldogs.
So one of the things James and I talk about a lot, we had Dave Brandis on here last year, and a lot of it was talking to him kind of about this as well, because Dave was picked in the OHL U18 draft by Sault Ste. Marie, chose Junior A. You were not Bantam drafted, but if the WHL route was one you wanted to pursue, the doors would have been open for you. So what went into the decision to go down the tier 2 NCAA route like you have?
Definitely was when I didn't get drafted. Kind of made a little bit of sense. Was still below 5 foot my second year of Bantam, stuff like that. And then my last year at Nax, right before when there was a lot of interest, either there or go college route. And it was just my 16-year-old year at Nax, interest of a few schools, and kind of got a little bit exposure to that early on in the year, where it was something that I really wanted to do. And plus, just growing up, you see a lot of, don't see it too much, but you still see quite a bit if you look at the right places about college hockey and all the culture, the traditions. It's just something very exciting that I wanted to pursue my career for.
So just for a couple of the people listening, and I'm myself, honestly, like being from BC, I'm not super familiar with that prep program. Could you kind of tell me a little bit about it? What makes a guy like you end up going there and taking that route with the extreme prep there?
Yeah, it's a really great development program. We go to school all together. The teams have a great history, a lot of draft picks the last few years, and we work out every day, skate every day, play on the weekends and showcases. Focus on the marks, which is nice. All your whole team's in the same class together, and then just the amount of skills coaches development that they have out there was just truly beneficial. And just my first year there was during the COVID year where we didn't play really any games, and so that year we'd have probably 2 or 3 times a week would have like three extra skill coaches out there, just everybody developing their game. So it was a great decision, and I truly am thankful for the opportunity I had there.
So one more follow-up for you on that one. I mean, of all the people you played with there, it sounds like you guys had a pretty tight-knit program. Who's the best player there that you played with that I should be watching for? And you can't say yourself.
Best player I played my COVID year 2 games with is Aiden Fink, who's at Penn State. He was filthy there, still is, doing great things. Had a Hattie last night. And then another really good player I enjoyed playing with was Zachary Shantz, who's in Regina right now. He's a really good player as well, who I played on the line with my second year there. We had a really good team.
Okay, so interesting that you brought up Aiden Fink, Lumi, because Fink was a player last year with Brooks, puts up 97 points, wins the scoring championship in the AJHL. Obviously played for the Brooks team that swept Blackfolds in the South Division final. Goes into the draft ranked in the 90s, ends up falling, but gets drafted. And now you're right. 7 goals and 15 points in 13 games at Penn State. And for him, he was a first-year draft eligible, but he was an 04 last year. So basically same year that you are this year. 2 years out from being a 20. When you watch his development from his first year of junior to his second year, obviously the correlation of being a Penn State commit, is that kind of what you have in your head as far as best case scenario for the end of the season would be pretty much exactly what he did last year, where he tore up the World Junior A Challenge. He got his Penn State commit last year as well, and on draft radars ends up going to the Nashville Predators. Like, is watching him, and obviously the relationship you have with him, is that putting those aspirations in your head and watching that path and saying, you know what, I could do that too?
Yeah, definitely. A good friend of mine, talked to him quite a bit, and just like seeing what he did last year is truly, he kind of proved a point in that sense that it's always possible. So definitely something that I'm trying to focus on to kind of follow his footsteps.
So I've referenced the World Junior A Challenge a couple times on this podcast. So for people who don't know, obviously in December, you got the World Junior Hockey Championship. It's the best U20 players from every country. World Junior A Challenge is exactly what it sounds like, the best Junior A players from each country. Players under the age of 19 are able to go. So this year, the 2004 born group will be the oldest group there. Loomer, have you heard anything yet?
Yeah, so just was at the rink, I guess, before our Saturday game, just a little morning meeting before the bus, and just got a call saying like congratulations making it, and then like got home, and then I just already had like the email with all the schedule and all that stuff to go through. It was pretty exciting, especially doing it with another teammate, Alex Dimitriadis. So it'll be a good experience for both of us, and really fun to have somebody that familiar with and a good friend on the team to just be there with me. Good to have some good time together.
Well, congrats, man. That's huge. So, man, what's it going to be like first game walking into that dressing room, grabbing a jersey? I don't know if it's going to be number 10 like it is in Black Folds, but it says Loomer on the back of it. You flip it around, you got the Hockey Canada logo on the front. Like, do you have any idea how that's going to feel? Because I couldn't even imagine it.
Yeah, no idea. Should be exciting though. Definitely looking forward to the first prelim game that's coming up here in a few weeks. So it'll be a surreal moment, I think.
So now if you walk away from that tournament with a medal, are you coming back and just walking it right past Tanner Willick?
I think there'll definitely be some chirps thrown for sure if that's the case, but knock on wood, of course. But
so for context, Tanner Willick off the Bulldogs represented Canada West last year, 4th place finish. Ethan Morrow won silver with Canada East when he was playing in the OJHL with Wellington. So, Loomer, if you win gold, you got a leg up on both of them, as does Dimitriadis, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. There'll definitely be, especially the Tanner, a few little nips at him, but all fun and jokes.
So, I mean, about the event itself and the tournament, is this something that was on your radar for a long time? Do you know where you're going to be playing? Do you know who you're playing? Like, just kind of give me the excitement level and what you know so far.
Don't know don't know the full roster as of yet, anything like that. Don't know lines, anything. Just definitely on the radar. Had that on my wall all summer, working for that. A big goal of mine, and exciting to have the start of this season to give me the opportunity to play for Team Canada West.
That's awesome, man. Congrats. I'm happy for you. I honestly, I can't imagine having that Hockey Canada logo on the front. That's like pure euphoria just thinking about it. It's wild.
Yeah, it should be fun. Yeah, thank you very much.
No
hopefully
worries,
hopefully not the last time, buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, obviously, long-term aspirations aside, you're still eligible next year.
Yeah, that is true.
It could be a back-to-back for you, and yeah, like it's something that you look at the roster at the beginning of the year, and you obviously you don't want to lose the players for an extended period of time. But looking at our Bulldogs roster, ton of guys that we knew had the possibility to go, but your name was always locked to the top of that list, right? And for you to get that call, that's exciting, obviously for everybody in the organization, and as somebody who's a big fan of yours, Layne, congratulations, seriously. It's super awesome, and I'm gonna really, really enjoy watching you there. That closes off kind of a big week and a half for you then, because not too long ago was the official pen to paper of Penn State University. So tell me why that was such a good fit for you.
It was just a really good fit in the end. I've always wanted to play in the Big Ten Conference, and when that opportunity presented itself at a prestigious program like Penn State, I just knew it was the place for me. Very, very great tradition, culture there. Somewhat of a newer program in that area, but certainly have a great tradition, culture in that locker room.
So you talked about your relationship with Aiden Fink. You're kind of both right wingers, so I don't know if playing on a line together is super plausible, but let's just say, how excited are you to play on a power play unit with a guy?
Oh, yeah, hopefully one day. He's a great player, runs the power play. Just know he's a great player. Just hopefully that's something that occurs one day.
So for people who, I mean, for most people haven't really gone through that process, can you walk me through what it's like being in discussions with a big school, how they approach you, what are there interviews, do you meet coaching staff? Tell me about what that looks like.
Yeah, my process was a little bit different. I opened up my commitment last Tuesday and then I ended up committing the Tuesday after. So it was a lot of phone calls, a lot of text messages that whole week, and then the Monday night had a full Zoom call with all their coaching staff, all their kind of staff members. Just kind of went through it, a little presentation there, and just knew it was the spot for me, and took it the next day.
And so I've got to ask, what's it like having someone courting you like that? Being like, okay, we really want you to come do this. Please believe in us here. We want you to come hang out, basically. What's it like getting groomed, treated, courted, any of those things?
It's definitely something that you don't expect. Like you don't really know what it's like until you kind of go through the process. But it definitely is a great feeling.
It just feels like such a reversal because you spend so much of your life playing hockey earlier on. You're trying out for teams. You're like, oh, I really hope I crack this one. And then it gets to this point in your career and they're just like, no, come here. Come on. Come over here.
Yeah.
It feels like such a flip. I mean, I haven't gone through anything like that myself, but that was the first thing that came into mind for me.
Yeah, exactly. That whole recruiting process it's exciting, but definitely very fun process to go through. But in the
And
end, it's a little bit draining sometimes, but it's a lot of fun.
the one other thing I'm curious about too is like how involved are other important people in your life in this huge decision? Like, are you talking with family, close friends? Like, who's helping you make this decision? And did any of them change your mind about anything?
I wouldn't say any influence made me change my mind or anything like that, but obviously parents, family, friends, close friends definitely influence a bit. But my parents have always just been support me either way. In the end, they'll be there for it all. And if I make a decision that maybe they thought I should have went somewhere else, they'll support me no matter what. But they knew Penn State was for sure where they saw me going after the
Last
call.
question on the commitment here. Um, who had the best reaction when you told them you were going?
The best reaction, oh, I'd have to go with the head coach there when I told him. I told the assistant coach right after, and then he told them, and he zipped off the ice. They were at practice. I got a FaceTime, and he was in the tunnel. He's like, I just dipped off the ice. They give you a call, just super excited. It was pretty exciting when the head coach of that program is giving you a FaceTime while he's on the ice for practice. So it was exciting.
You know what? The only reason he didn't say me is because he texted me. If it was in person, it would have been me because I would have been jumping all over the place.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Layne, obviously, you know what? Any interview we do, anytime we're talking, the your humility comes across, right? But I know you're a confident guy. So if I asked you last summer as you're arriving at Bulldogs camp, where you wanted to be by November 2023, would you have said that a Big Ten commitment and a spot in the World Junior A Challenge, would you have thought that was too much to hope for? Like, is this kind of feeling like, basically, to sum up the question, can you believe the spot like this last week?
Well, yeah, obviously was a dream coming into juniors. Knew the opportunities it would have out in Black Falls, but never really thought it would be, never knew what it would feel like, thought it would be like that, but definitely a surreal week. So, yeah, super grateful for the time and all the effort put in. But yeah, grateful for this last week's opportunities.
And I'll throw the clip of the broadcast in there because a couple games ago on the Bulldogs broadcast, Mike Moore and I just opened up talking about a couple players that have been impressing us of late. I think I opened up with your teammate Ryan Shaw, and then I talked about you. And one of the things I said was, if you're a hockey player and you're a forward and you're trying to be the best version of a two-way forward, should just be watching game clip of you, should be watching game tape of you and how you play.
second guy, Mike, and at risk of maybe sounding like a broken record on here, it's Layne Loomer. I believe if you're a young hockey player who's a winger and you want to improve, you should come out to these games and you should watch Layne Loomer.
What I really want to talk about is his compete level. He competes all over the ice. If he's on the forecheck, he's coming. You better move the puck, or otherwise he's going to take it away from you.
So where I'm going with this, I want to elaborate on the if you're a young hockey player, do this with you, because if they take my advice and they watch you play, obviously all they're going to see is what you do on the ice. I want to talk about what you do off the ice, Layne, because it's my understanding that if there's hours in a day, you're going to fill them with making yourself a better hockey player. In the summer, if it's after a game, you're straight in the gym. If it's in the morning, early mornings, before practice, after practice, before games, after games. And summer break isn't a break for you. You're on the ice. So tell me about everything that goes into being a high level player off the ice, and kind of the way I phrase the question is kind of, if there's a player, say, who's 13 years old, who's a talented hockey player, and if they want to be in your position in a few years where you got a dream NCAA commitment and you're going to be throwing on the Hockey Canada jersey for the first time, what do you do off the ice, and what advice can you give to somebody who wants to commit to their career and commit to being the best they can be?
I think just showing up every day, because some days you definitely won't want to, but as long as you do the most, push through it, and just get the most amount of reps possible, everything like that, just really focus on, if you really want to do hockey, just focus all in, go all in. And then obviously just find a good program. If for me, it was Northern Alberta Extreme and here in Black Falls, and that just completely boosted it to another level. And it's just wanting to definitely take it to the next level and be disciplined to do it every single day, no matter what, even if you're tired. But as long as you just get it done, it'll be good by the end of by the weekend when you're playing games. So that would be my advice.
So just a couple things here. I mean, this one's a little bit out of the context we were just in, but I was just thinking about it while you were talking. Kind of gapped out a bit, honestly, thinking about it, because this one's always been really interesting for me, for people in hockey. Leadership is such an interesting and important thing as you go on. There's people you look up to when you're younger, whether it's people you watch on TV, whether it's an older sibling or a friend's older sibling or someone you go to school with. But I find it really, really interesting when people go into different stages of hockey. So just looking at that rookie year again, who are some vets you really, really took a lot from leadership wise? Because I'm looking at it, you had an A last year. And no, I mean, Elite Prospects says you do. Oh, okay. Never mind. Well, do you this year? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Perfect. Well, I mean, yeah, you got an A this year. Who are some guys you learned a bit from, and what'd you take from them? And maybe if there's some of those vets that aren't around this year anymore.
Yeah, I think we had a great 20 core last year. A lot of great players, great leaders in the room that have definitely, all of them kind of helped out a lot. But to signal one out, it would be Jason Seedham. He also, me and him, last 2-3 guys in the rink every day, and he was just someone being around. He wants to be a pro hockey player. He puts in the work, does everything he can do. And then I was fortunate enough to be on a line with him and Brendan Ross, and just the way he plays, you can take a lot from it. He's a very smart player and scored his first collegiate goal last night. So shout out Seeds, but he was just a great leader in the room by leading by example. Wasn't the loudest, wouldn't talk all the time, but if he needed to, he would, but always would lead by example. And I've definitely picked up on that.
Okay, first off, that's awesome. I love that you had a mentor like that, especially one your last two off the ice. That's special to hear. But there was one thing I just kind of caught there on your answer, and I caught it earlier in the interview as well. And this is the second time you've mentioned recent goal scorers in college hockey of people you know. are you the kind of person who's just always on hockey stats and always keeping an eye on your buddies? Like, are you all hockey all the time, or does your brain ever turn off of hockey?
Oh, no, I think I'm always kind of on hockey like that, but it'll definitely pop up. Like even Tyler Wallace scored a pretty nifty goal. He's on a little tear right now. Scored another one last night, but it's definitely good to see those guys doing good and just kind of seeing how they were last year and then them enjoying college another level and them at being successful is just like proud and happy for them.
Just following up one more there. I mean, at this point in your career, you kind of do have to be all hockey all the time. Like it's that dedication and passion for it that'll drive you forward in your hockey career. But what do you do with your downtime? As I mean, you're in Blackfalds, Alberta. Like, how do you still find time to enjoy yourself? And I mean, you've got a whole team of buddies there. Like, uh, how do the Bulldogs keep busy?
A lot of guys do a lot of different things, but some of the guys I hang out with will definitely the how we got the sauna at the rink. That's what a lot of the guys start buzzing, especially on our days off. Get a nice workout in sauna, and then you kind of go out to eat together, and then you go back and then work out again. But a lot of guys like there's a movie theater in Red Deer. Speaking of Dave Brandis, how you guys had him on, I owe him a movie soon, but I haven't went at all this year. But the guys will do that a lot, that or just hanging out together.
And then what's the best food spot you guys all hit? Where's the best team dinner or team snack, whether post practice, post game, or just on an off day? Where's the regular?
Oh, the regular has to be Piccolo's out by the rink in Black Falls. They give us the hot minute in the third period, first minute in the third. If we score, it's like a free appetizer or something like that. So all the boys are ready to go for that first minute, trying to get the Piccolo's hot minute. So it's definitely that spot.
All right, how many times have we had that since you came to the team?
Oh, not enough. I'll say that. Not enough.
Not enough. All
Not
right.
enough.
Well, I better hear by the end of the year that we've had a few more of those.
Yeah, exactly. A few more hot.
I think off the top of my head, James, I think it's one.
Damn, I was really hoping
Since the
for a
start
bigger
of last
number. I was
season.
hoping, yeah, we kick off every third period just for free appies. We get up for those appies.
Well, man, every time we start the third period on a power play at home, I'm extra like, come on,
And do you get
this
to
is
get
the
in on the
one.
appies?
I don't think so because I think it's not even with the guys. It's just like everybody with a ticket gets a free appetizer if they bring their ticket into the restaurant. It's a fan sponsorship thing, and yeah, like what we're like 26 games into this season, around 13 home games. We had what 30 last year, so we're
I think the
one for
rule should be
43
if
or
you make the
something
call,
right
you should
now.
get an appy.
For sure. For sure. Yeah.
Okay, so Layne, obviously, like you said, you're all hockey all the time. So I know that means that growing up, you would have had a guy that you watched and said, this is who I'm gonna be. This is who I'm gonna play with. I'm gonna take the best parts of this guy's game and I'm gonna try and do my best to emulate that." So who was that player that you looked at and said, that's the kind of game I want to be
Honestly,
playing?
I'd take a lot of different people's games, but there was just one kind of grew up hometown from the same hometown, Chris Versteeg, won the Stanley Cup a few times, brought it back. See him at the gym sometimes in the summer and working at his camp. Growing up, me and Aiden Fink would go to his camp every summer with a few of my good buddies. We'd all stay together and just it was always him just watching his like highlights from when he played in the WHL and stuff like that. That was just somebody I kind of looked up to. And now that he's retired now, but he's still very involved in the hockey world. But definitely just what he kind of mentioned and his path. He was actually someone that called me on the WHL draft day right after and just kind of gave me some advice, stuff like that. So definitely grew up looking up to him.
So I gotta ask because he's quite the personality. Like I love watching the dude's interviews and when he's had a couple little TV spots and stuff like that. And super skilled player, obviously. What were those first few interactions with him like? Because I feel like as a kid, you're looking at him, you're like, oh, here's this pro NHL player that I look up to and I am like enthralled by. And then I feel like he's the kind of guy who would just break the ice with you right away and say something funny. Tell me about those first couple interactions.
Yeah, like you're 7, 8 years old, and Chris is coming out. We'd play like baseball. A few of us, like, that would all stay together at camp. My one good buddy, just his neighbor, so we'd be playing baseball with him, and he's cracking jokes like we're just one of his friends and stuff like that. So he was certainly definitely very opening in that sense, and just a great guy.
And I gotta ask because this is what I would have done. Um, After you met him, you probably got a picture with him. Were you, and you're all hockey all the time. Were you going into school on that next day, on that Monday, whatever it was, and showing all your buddies, being like, I was hanging out with Chris Versteeg. I did that. That's my guy.
I don't think so, but definitely the stories. There's a few photos. I think I got one from the cup, and then a few of the baseball ones that with me and Finky and some of the guys out when we were 7, 8 years old. So that was definitely pretty cool. But I don't think about any of the class. I think we were too young for the having access to the photos at that time.
Send one over to Aiden. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, for sure I will.
Okay, I don't need examples because we this is like our 38th episode of this podcast. We've kept this thing clean this whole time. So we don't need word for word quotes from you. But you were a rookie last year. At what point did you feel like you could start chirping across the bench and start chirping guys on the ice? Because obviously in your first game, obviously in the first month of the season, you're a rookie. You're not going to open your mouth. But when when does the trash talk start for a junior hockey player?
I honestly don't know. Don't really know. You hear some guys just it's their first game and you're hearing from them, especially the start of this year. But and then I don't know. Probably for me, it's kind of when I was hearing some Rosser and Seeds given to a few of the guys. So that was definitely for me.
But be honest, Layne, do you have to step up your trash talk game? Is there some corny stuff in there, or are you pretty on the money?
I don't even really trash talk that much. Some of the guys try to say I do and stuff like that, but I'm definitely on the lower end, I'd say myself, but always could, I guess, step it up.
All right. Well, I guess the one last note on the trash talk thing, and because I worked for I was between the benches on our broadcast for the Surrey Eagles and the BCHL. So I've heard a lot of junior A guys talk smack, and some of it was pretty good, some of it was brutal. Um, and and sometimes I would even see their teammates go, "What are you even saying, dude? Like this is not it." Is there Is there someone on your team, you don't have to name names, you don't have to call anyone out, and I wouldn't if I were you either. Is there someone on your team who sometimes you look around and you go, what are you even talking about, man?
Yeah. We certainly had a guy like that for the majority of last year where you don't even know what he's saying, but he's just loud up in everybody's ear. But it was definitely funny to witness, and it kind of got the guys going. So, but yeah, definitely didn't know what he was saying too much.
And so if a game breaks open and you guys are down a few goals, if you guys are getting pumped, is that something you want to hear? Is that something that's going to break the ice for you and get you going again?
Like from someone or from our bench?
Either or, jabbing back and forth.
Either or. Yeah, definitely kind of. You're always trying to score, always trying to be in the game, but it definitely makes it a little more intense, I think. Like when it's like it'll make it a little closer, but so yeah, it's definitely good to still be hearing it, even if it's a little bit of a lopsided game. So that means the guys are still into the game, dialed. So definitely still hear it. I'd say that.
So Layne, I know very, very high likelihood is this is a choice that isn't going to be yours to make. But if you right now had to choose, would you rather be playing junior hockey next year or be playing NCAA hockey next year? You're the kind of guy, because I know talking to different players, I know some of them just love junior hockey and wouldn't do anything to change it. And I know there's some guys that, that are even in junior hockey this year that want to be in the NCAA already or don't want to be back for the next couple of years, right? Like there's the opinions on it are all over the place. And I guess it just kind of depends on who you are and what your situation is. So for you, if you were given the option, would you make the NCAA jump? For you, it would be 2 years before you need to, before you age out.
Yeah, I think it'll kind of come down to it, but a lot of guys, like you said, it's a little bit mixed emotions in the room. Like, I'm super excited to go into Penn State, like, can't wait at all. But I think for sure I want to do one more year just to fully go in, ready to go, fully max out, not max out, but fully develop my game one more year in the junior level and then go in with the confidence and all that. So I think one more year for sure would be good. Wouldn't hurt.
Layner, I got one more for you here, and it's a big one for me. And anyone who knows me knows I'm really big on stories and memories. You know, like any time any place you spend a lot of time, any team you're a part of, any group of friends you're with for a long time, any job you work at, like those stories and memories that you get to look back on are super important. So hypothetically, if all was said and done for you in Black Falls tomorrow, something happened, you had to go play somewhere else, or say some terrible injury, you something happened. Um, if you had to look back at your time in Black Falls, your time in junior hockey, and there's one moment, one memory that you could look at and say, man, that was awesome. What a time. And that one memory, it could be something as small as laughing on a couch with your boys. It could be a moment on the ice together after a big game, a big upset or something like that. Give me one memory that really, really ties in your time in Blackfald so far.
One memory, this one I'll go with. It's not really one, it would kind of be consistently, but we had a really good group of guys. A lot of them are gone now in that sense. That last year, after skates, after games, would all kind of be in the gym still. Probably about just under six of us, less than six. And it was just a great group of guys where all like talk hockey, anything at all, and all still got the work done. It was a great way to end the days after our original workout and skate, and definitely miss it, especially a lot of them are older now at college. But just it was a great time. Just all the fellas chopping it up after practices. It was a lot of fun.
Hey man, we haven't asked this one yet, and this is kind of the obligatory one, but give me a couple names, couple guys, and you kind of already alluded to it with Chris Versteeg, but a couple guys where you're going to be looking back and you're going to say, you said your parents would support you through anything, but just people in your life where you just appreciate their support, and it almost makes all your accomplishments a little bit better because you got that group of people propping you up, and you got that group of people who it means the world to them just like it means the world to you.
Yeah, I think I'd have to go with my childhood best friend, still talk all the time, Emmett Finney. He was drafted this past year to Detroit. Great kid. He was the one that had the house that we would stay at and play baseball with Chris and Finker. But he has an older brother who plays in Edmonton in the WHL, and they're just two of my closest friends. Oh, like grew up with them, still talk every day, and they love hockey as well. So it's definitely grew up playing together, had some great memories. And then I'd say one more would probably be Tarek Parasak. It's another great friend of mine who's having a great year in Prince George this year. Definitely should be on the high up on the draft boards coming in the summer. And he's just a great friend of mine, and just grew up, great family friends, still talk every day as well. But yeah, it's definitely nice seeing what they're all doing. Proud of them all, and it's been really good growing up together.
Yeah, I gotta ask because I just looked up your boy Finney, and the guy's got a sick draft picture. And but the thing is, I'm looking at it. He's got the hockey hair all planned out. It looks like he got it specifically ready for the photo, and he's like dead serious. But you can see he's just trying to hold back a smile because obviously he's stoked on life. Can you ask him the story with that photo? Can you ask him if he was holding back a smile or if he was just trying to go dead serious?
Yeah, I definitely can, and get back to you on that one.
Sounds good. Thanks, fella. That's the first thing I thought of. I just went, oh, good hockey hair, but dude's holding it back here right now.
Yeah.
Dude, anytime I got the camera on Loomy, it's the same expression. It's the trying to be serious, but you can see the smirk coming through.
Yeah.
I put up a video today where it was the one for the Bulldogs training center, Loomy,
Yeah.
where it's so obvious that you're trying not to laugh as I'm like just taking a video of you lifting. And yeah, it's funny because the second the camera goes off, we make eye contact, we both just laugh. It's
Yeah, I saw that. I saw it made the cut. That was funny.
Well, I don't have any extra questions for the guy. This has been killer. I mean, you coming in, it's kind of like when we talked to Dave Brandis. He came in a little bit quiet, and then we got your gears turning, and you can see you loosened up, and you're having a lot of fun. And I just appreciate the great interview, man.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Really appreciate it.
And just know I'll be watching your career from here on out. So I'm rooting for you for sure. You got yourself another fan in me.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank
yeah,
you.
buddy, good luck. Another northern road trip for you guys this week, so good luck. And yeah, if there's a team that are gonna take the chance and call your name in the NHL draft, we'll have you on after that. But we might need a quick World Junior A recap from you after the tournament. So obviously have some fun, good luck, and hopefully we get you on after that, because hopefully you can hop on this video with a medal around your neck.
Yeah, for sure. I'd be so down for that. Yeah, thank you very much.
Well, thanks, fella. We'll talk again soon, okay?
Okay. Okay, see you guys. Thank you.
Cheers, man. And back to it. That was Layne Loomer. We hope you guys had as much fun with that interview as we did. One hell of a guy. I'm definitely gonna be watching his career going forward. As I was saying there, he's just an awesome guy. I mean, you talk to a player playing junior, and often they're a little bit quiet coming in, and then they gain comfortability, and you could really see that one as it went on. What do you think of that interview, Aiden?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, obviously, just the closeness of his playing career and my working career in the last couple seasons. Him and I have had a lot of hockey conversations, both just about his career, about the team, and just about the NHL sometimes, right? So I know how well versed this kid is in hockey, and obviously the big thing to come out of that interview, I asked him about it, but I didn't expect the answer to be, "Oh, I made the team," was him representing Canada West. Him and teammate Alexander Dimitriadis, who I've talked to more since then about it as well. Like, man, for these kids, like it's the first time pulling that maple leaf over their chest, and that's huge. So I'm stoked for Layne, stoked for Alex as well. It's huge, and yeah, the interview that's one of the best episodes for me. It will be this one, just because like I love hearing people's stories, right? I love it. It's awesome, and Layne had some great ones.
And for anyone who's checking out anyone who wants to check out the tournament, how do they see it? Where's it broadcasted?
The gold medal games on TSN. That is the easiest way to see it. It's streamed online, if not, and I think it's pay per game, which is going to make it difficult even for me to watch it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But hopefully Canada West makes that run to the gold medal game, and we can watch the TSN broadcast out there in Truro.
Awesome. We'll love to hear it. Let's go back to some NHL stuff. We, as I was saying before the interview, we have quite a bit to get to, as it's been quite a while since our last episode. So before we get into any news, I think we want to shine a light on how great one of the all-time greats is playing in his twilight years. Sidney Crosby. Aiden, take us away here.
Yeah, I meant to throw on my Crosby jersey for this segment. I'm not getting up. It's in my closet. 14 goals and 25 points in 23 games. And that's a pace that he's struggled in the last couple of games to put up points. He was on like a pretty clear 100-point pace. He's now on a 50-goal, 89-point pace. But man, and I'm not using this as an opportunity to take a shot at Alex Ovechkin. Ovechkin's longevity has been amazing. Him being able to score goals is amazing. But if you watch Crosby and Ovechkin play, Ovechkin's what happens when guys reach the 36, 37 age. They just slow down. They can't do as much. And Ovechkin, you can see that he just can't do as much. It's not his fault. It's a result of aging. Sidney Crosby, I don't see that. I don't see him slowing down. He does not look like a 36-year-old. He looks like he's in his early 30s. He has energy. Every time he's on the ice, he's got the drive to get the puck. He Ovechkin at the end of the day right now, he's transitioning into a periphery player, and it makes sense at his age. Use the tools you still have, and for Ovechkin, it's that shot. Crosby is still going as the same buzzsaw energy guy that he always has been, and he's producing on a Pittsburgh team where they have to be carried by their veterans. And I've on this podcast talked about how I think Pittsburgh, they keep pushing for a goal that I don't think they're going to reach. But if you look at the top 4 or 5 scorers on this team, there's some impressive numbers that jump out. Brian Russ is scoring at a 41 goal clip over 82 games. Gensel's got 27 points in 23 games. Even Malkin's 10 goals and 21 points in 23 games. Erik Karlsson's got 19 and 23. These veterans for the Pittsburgh Penguins, they're churning it out. And it's the question of longevity and the question of sustainability has to be asked. But they're giving it one more on a shot, and I respect that. And Crosby's been leading the way, and he's been awesome. And I for one of the all-time greats, it's really good to see him not fall off and keep going forward.
My fantasy team thanks Brian Russ for his service.
No kidding.
He's been a very effective, steady contributor when healthy. So we like that. We like that a lot. But yeah, it's the kind of thing with Crosby where you really have to take your time and appreciate it right now. I had a kind of funny moment that I haven't talked about on here. When I was last in Port Alberni seeing my family for Thanksgiving, we were trying to talk my 5 and 7-year-old cousins into playing hockey. And then so they signed up for like that Hockey Canada first shift thing where they go on and they learn hockey skills, and it's like a pretty good deal. You get all of the kids' gear for like $150 or $180 or something like that, and which is a pretty good deal considering the price of hockey gear nowadays. And the younger one, who's a lot more outgoing, he loved it at first and then decided he didn't want to play. The older one, who's a lot more timid than shy, his name's Talon, he fell in love with it out there. And early on, he kept falling down. He couldn't figure it out. And he was getting really frustrated. He's like, why can't I get good at this? And I said to him, everyone falls down. It's just about how many times you get back up. Even one of the greatest players I've ever seen play hockey, Sidney Crosby, I've watched him fall down. And then he said, who is Sidney Crosby? And then my uncle goes and grabs him and says, take a seat, kid. Your cousin's going to educate you about Sidney Crosby. And I just sat there and I showed him videos and I told him about him, and he just went, wow.
That's sweet.
It
awesome.
was a really special moment. And you think about how many moments like that there have been for so many people who watch hockey throughout Sidney Crosby's career. Like we've truly been able to witness greatness, and it's something that I took for granted early on. And as I've grown older, I don't want to miss another moment. It's pretty special. My favorite Sidney Crosby piece of media, though, is I think it was like a Tim Hortons Hockey Canada commercial, and there's all of these people skating onto the ice, just like hundreds of people skating onto the ice, and this one little kid is skating on and he falls over and then Crosby nods at him and he comes up and stands at the line next to him, and then Crosby looks down. And like I've chills thinking about it. Like it's just it's so special. Like we've been really, really fortunate. And just before we move on from this, because I don't think we've addressed it yet, there was that Ovechkin comment a week or two ago where he said, "Me and Sid saved the league." And a lot of people went, "What do you mean you saved the league? The NHL was there." No, they did. They did. They brought so many more eyes to the sport. It was somewhat stagnant. You had the year before the lockout, Marty St. Louis won the Art Ross, Lightning won the Cup. Right when the lockout ended, it was the first Cup final after that was the Hurricanes beating the Oilers. Even though the Edmonton Oilers were in the Cup finals, it was one of the lowest viewed Cup finals ever in terms of cable viewership. And in 2006, cable viewership's a big deal. Now, Ovechkin outduels Crosby for the Calder as Rookie of the Year. Both those players go on to have exciting Stanley Cup winning, individual award winning, international highlight reel careers. And you know what? I fully agree with them. They didn't just save the NHL, they saved hockey.
I've mentioned it on this podcast. I will never forget Canada-Russia 2010 Olympic quarterfinal, that being one of the most exciting games I've ever watched in terms of just the lead up, and then for Canada to be so dominant was something special. And you know, the dueling hat tricks in the playoffs comes to mind as the early one, but you know, every Stanley Cup one of them won, they had to go through the other, right? And that made for some very, very awesome playoff series. And yeah, again, save the NHL. Like, I think for us to argue whether or not they saved the NHL would kind of be, you know, picking apart his words and not really focusing on the sentiment. I agree with the sentiment that, like, at the end of the day, what they did for hockey was indescribable.
And I like the one extra piece of Ovechkin's comment that didn't make the headline. He was talking about how all of these young kids are coming in and they're really exciting young players and they're going to have to carry the torch. And that was just like this big sign of respect that we are passing the torch down. We're at the end of the road here. It's up to you guys now. I love that. In any piece of media, in movies, in TV shows, that the grizzled veteran passing the torch and saying, "It's up to you now." That is like, that's peak in any form of storytelling. I love that stuff. And yeah, I love that he made the comments. I love looking back at these guys' careers. I don't know, like, I feel like I'm going to be heartbroken when either one of them retire. Like, I don't even know what I'm going to do with myself. When Ovechkin won the Cup, and he said in his post-game interview, in the celebration, he said, "Friends, we did it. Go have beers with your friends and enjoy it. We did this for all of you." And I'm not even a Capitals fan. And I went to my local watering hole and I went and got appetizers and drinks with a bunch of people and just talked hockey for like 4 hours. It was awesome. And you know what? I'm probably going to do the same thing when he retires.
I was 15 years old, so I couldn't, but I understand the sentiment.
Well, moving on, there is a bunch of stuff in Chicago we need to talk about, and then some other stuff we just want to talk about. So I think we are going to start off light and big. I mean, I guess it isn't all that light. Taylor Hall's out for the year. I'm pretty disappointed. You know, he's disappointed. How do you feel about this one?
Yeah, obviously for Bedard, not having Hall beside him is it's gonna suck. And you know, I think for Taylor Hall, unfortunately, what this costs him, like, he was on a short-term deal. I think he would have been a really good rental for the playoffs for the Chicago Blackhawks to get a draft pick for him at the deadline, and he could have been a depth contributor to a Stanley Cup team. Like, how much could the Colorado Avalanche, James, use Taylor Hall right now in the middle six? Definitely could, right? Especially with Arturi Lehkonen out hurt. So I think for Hall, as much as anything, the prospect of playing the rest of the year with Bedard would have been great, but he potentially is going to miss out on a playoff run, and that's obviously a bummer for somebody who for as good a career as he's had, he hasn't had too much playoff experience, and that he loses another opportunity here.
Yeah, it's just really unfortunate. I mean, just he's north of 30 now, is he not? He's 31, something like that. It's just really unfortunate. I feel sorry for him. He legitimately seemed excited about going to Chicago and helping show Connor Bedard the ropes, and an injury for the year, you're pretty distant from the team. It's just unfortunate. The guy loves the sport. I like Taylor Hall as a person from just watching from a far standpoint. And I don't know. I just feel bad for the guy. Like he's been such a good sport about everything, with like being the first overall pick, good luck charm and stuff like that. Like a lot of players would maybe take a little bit of offense to that, be like maybe be a little bit hurt by the fact that they've been on a lot of losing teams, but he's been such a good sport about it. So, I mean, I wish him all the best. I hope he recovers and comes back hard next year. I hope it's not something that really hampers the rest of his career. But moving on, let's talk about a healthy first overall pick. Connor Bedard. I feel, have we had a podcast without mentioning his name since he came into the league?
Since he came into the league, James, I don't think we've had a podcast without mentioning his name like ever, period. This is episode 38. That
Cool.
I'd be surprised if he didn't come up at least once every time. And it's because I love this kid. Like he's a phenomenal hockey player already. 11 goals and 20 points in 23 games. Like, yeah, that's a phenomenal stat line on a struggling team. But you know what? You watch a Blackhawks game, he's driving the bus offensively. He's making the gears turn. Like it's all him. And he looks like he's got a great attitude doing it. Looks like he's having fun out there, despite the fact that Chicago are obviously a team in a rebuilding phase. And it's great to see early, because you can so clearly tell just how the sky's the limit is for this kid. Like he's done nothing but impress me so far.
Yeah, totally. And you know what? Like when he went a few games without a point, you saw him working just as hard, if not harder, and adding more to his game. His game has changed since his first game. Like 20 games into his professional hockey career, you've already seen growth. And at that point, a lot of players would start to show frustration when things aren't working out. No, he added to it. He got in there. You could see him practicing different things. I'm impressed more so than I thought I would be. Like, I'm more impressed with what I'm seeing now than if he had 30 points right now, because he's adding the things to his game that are going to make him a great player by year 2, going to make him an even better player by year 3, going to make him a threat nonstop moving forward. I'm impressed. I'm really happy with what I've seen. I mean, I don't I can fully admit that I'm not going to watch every Chicago game this year, but I've probably watched 4.5, maybe 5 of his games so far, and every game he's gotten better. So I'm pretty thrilled with what I've seen. Have you? Is there anything you would knock so far from what you've seen him play?
I can't think of anything, right? Like it's the defensive game is getting better and better, right? That would have been my knock on him early, was just the fact that as a centerman he needed to become more defensively responsible, play more of a 200-foot game. It's not fully fledged yet, but it's getting there, right? Like he every time I see him, he's better off the puck, and you can't ask him to be Anze Kopitar in day one, but the fact that he's made strides already and you can see it, it's good.
One of the things I noticed, I a lot of the time when I'm at work, I can't listen to the game, but I can kind of have it on in my peripheral vision just off in the corner. And so there's no audio, and you really pick up a lot more of the player's mannerisms and tendencies, because it totally takes the audio experience out of it, which, I mean, it has its ups and downs, but I noticed that when he's back checking and when he's trying to defend a breakout against his team, when he's about to head into the defensive zone, his head's up a lot more. And with that brilliant hockey mind, that quick little habit and knowing what to do when you notice these lanes forming, that's going to be huge. That's going to be massive. And I'm not saying he's going to be a Selke winner, but those are the kind of habits that are just going to be phenomenal for him moving forward and becoming a better pro.
Next with Chicago, I have been a huge fan of this guy for a while. The 2019 World Juniors were in Vancouver, James, and we got to watch Philip Kurashev have a superb tournament for Switzerland. I was a big fan of him then. He scored 6 goals and 7 points in 7 games, looked great, and he's really showing the top 6 upside this year. He's got 13 points in 17 games, and you know, the offensive skills coming to the forefront. And do I think he's going to be on Bedard's line for the rest of his career? No, I don't. But if you look at the Chicago Blackhawks prospects they've got coming up, adding Frank Nazar and Oliver Moore to a second line with Philip Kurashev doesn't look bad at all, does it?
Not bad at all. And I mean, if he ends up being a middle 6 forward, or if he signs at some point, if he's on an expiring UFA deal and he's looking pretty good and he's an asset that can be flipped, that's a great thing for the team too. That kind of performance is good for him. It's good for the team. It's good for whoever's acquiring him. It's good for his agent even.
Well, I kind of think of another Blackhawk that broke out kind of in a similar manner, Pia Suter, who's been a very, very key contributor to Vancouver this year, right? I kind of had a similar thinking, and they just so happen to both be from Switzerland, but a similar line of thinking with Suter when he was in Chicago of just the top 6 upside, but he could be a very effective bottom 6 forward. Well, he went to Detroit, now he's in Vancouver, and he's been an awesome third line center. He's hurt right now, but he was great when he was playing for the Canucks.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, as a team rebuilds, there's going to be more and more of these players. There are going to be so many guys who come in, have a good showing or a bad showing, and move on. And with it being this early in the rebuild, like, I know they have Connor Bedard, I know they have Oliver Moore, Kevin Korchinski, but there's a long road ahead. It's not quick. Rome wasn't built in a day, even if you already have the Coliseum built for you.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah. They basically got to start their civilization with a free Coliseum. It's pretty cool. But yeah,
I'll let you just go here. Last thing with the Chicago Blackhawks, James, take the mantle, and I'll kind of just let you say your piece because I know what you're going to say, and I know that I'm going to agree with everything you say. I'm going to let you go because there's nothing I need to add. So say your spiel about the Corey Perry situation.
Well, the funny thing is this rant is almost rehearsed because I've had it so many times because I work in a newsroom and this has been big news. So just a quick Cliff's notes on the situation itself. Corey Perry stepped away from the team. The team said it was their decision, not Perry's. Rumors started swirling. A lot of them were extremely inappropriate and were regarding a certain teammate's mother, which was stupid. That was just stupid. Whoever made that up, you know what? I hope they got paid in clicks for their stupidity because that was so dumb that honestly, you should have an award for, like, I think there's probably a Darwin Award for biggest idiot there. Like, what an idiot to start that and just have it fly and fly and fly. And then don't even get me started about the people who bought into it and started commenting and sharing and making memes of it online and then actually believing it was true that a professional hockey player had a quick relationship with another one of his teammates' mother, and that's why he is no longer on the team. Like, shut up. Stop. You're not smart. You're not even being funny. If you think you're being funny, you're probably just not getting enough attention in life, and this is what you're stuck with. Just chill. Take a step back. You know how many times in hockey, in your probable lifetime, whether this person who made this up is 13 or 50, in their lifetime, a player has been sent away from a team? Too many times to count. Before the player assistance program became a public thing, that was nonstop. There was one per other team every year. Okay? Like, this is a common thing. And yes, you know what? Maybe whatever Perry did wasn't very common. Maybe what he did was horrible. He could have done something terrible. But you know what? This isn't how this works. We go through the proper avenues of learning information once it is okay to be released. This is not how this works. And so my one piece of advice to everyone is shut up and wait and listen. And if you have to come up with something in the meantime, maybe keep your stupid thoughts to yourself. Because this was just purely idiotic. And I feel so sorry for everyone involved in both the actual situation and the rumor front. And I wish all the best to Perry and his family and whoever else is involved in whatever this situation is remedying itself. Mic drop.
I'm not disagreeing with you about anything you said. The only thing I'm going to add, as kind of a frustration of mine because yeah, like I saw the rumor and I was talking to buddies about it, and you know, the conversations I was having were like, okay, this is probably not true. Um, could the truth be worse? Like, it just seemed like such a delayed reaction. It spread like wildfire, and I felt like it should have been debunked far before. Like, nobody had to say what happened to just say, oh, it wasn't this. And it felt like there was way too much time before that happened. Not to mention, the Chicago Blackhawks and an organization have promised, and I'm going to quote, transparency across the board after what happened with Kyle Beach. Well, here was your first chance at transparency, Chicago, and you didn't do it. And that's a little bit frustrating to me.
You know what? There was a delayed reaction. You're right. And they should have been more transparent. And they do need to be better at these things. Realistically, everyone in professional sports does. It is a very odd world. But none of this conduct should ever have gone on in terms of let's take a rumor and run with it. This is not, and I'm not speaking from a high horse. I have a 2-year journalism diploma and I've worked in the industry for a year. This is not how we use comprehension and deduce and publish things. This is not how this works. We just need to learn the proper information as it becomes available, when it can be acquired, and get it out there in a proper fashion. And with the right information, that was done. Whenever a statement was released, every outlet published it properly. And so, one more parting piece of advice on this one. When you see a properly published article that has information that is sourced, that's likely what we know. When you see someone in an Instagram comment saying something really dumb with a bunch of skull emojis, and their profile has 57 followers, and it is only posted memes, I don't care how many likes the comment has. These people don't know anything. This isn't even a real person. So just go through the proper avenues and learn what you can and move on.
So let's talk about one more thing, because this has been a long episode, which was always going to be with as we combined not doing one for a while with an interview. But last thoughts to wrap this up, from that negative to what I think is a major positive. I was obviously young, like, I was between, I believe, like 9 and 12 when the All-Star games were having their drafts. I loved it. And I'm so excited because it's coming back. The team captains and drafting the teams, and the jokes about the last overall pick, and Ovechkin's whole thing about pick me last, I need a car. Like, all of that was awesome. And the All-Star game, I don't think has had much that good since it left. And it's back. So good job, NHL. I love it.
I'm a huge fan. I loved it when this stuff was going on. And you could see guys who were pretty serious figures in hockey. Like, you would see a Nicholas Lidstrom be joking around. It was awesome. I'm so happy this is back. I can't wait for us to have we live in the meme era. Like, memes are so much better now than they ever were. And I remember when Phil Kessel was picked last, that was hilarious back then. Whoever's picked last what I hope they're a quarter as good of a personality as he is. Because that was awesome. But yeah, it's gonna be great. I'm a big fan of all of the media and fanfare beforehand, before the actual game. The actual game's usually a snooze fest. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see how it goes. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Okay. Well, let's say thank you once more. We did during the interview. Thanks to Layne Loomer. Great interview. Obviously, very, very good luck to him representing Canada West at the World Junior A Challenge. Best of luck, of course, when he eventually ends up at Penn State University. And thank you for giving us your time. Thank you for listening, all the listeners. James and I, this long of a hiatus was the special circumstance of bad luck plus waiting for official word about an announcement we couldn't announce first. So as December rolls on, we obviously will have Christmas stuff that is going to come up, but we will do our very best because it's World Junior season, which is my favorite time of the year. It is my favorite piece of hockey to watch, and I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, we definitely thank you all for listening. And there haven't really been any games or fun points at the end of the podcast. We're not doing the movies this pod, but I promise next time around we'll have a lot of fun with it. We'll probably be an extended play at the back end of it, and this is a bit of a long one, so I don't want Aiden to have to edit a marathon. Well, Aiden, unless you have anything else, I think without further ado, let's roll that outro. Thanks, guys.